Okay. Ooh. Okay, right. So, guys, this is just a quick update with regard to some of the stuff that's been happening with regard to Verso and some other announcements with regard to just product launches in general. Just general things for you to sort of understand what's been going on, because I get a lot of questions about the Verso especially, as well as some other stuff that I want to discuss. Hey Rob. And yeah, this can be a little area at the minute for you to ask questions if you want to. So I did recently send out a couple boards from a sample batch that I had made. I sent one to Justin, sent one to Dimitri as well. I still need to send some more to some other people who I'll be getting in touch with. But essentially, Justin's been testing the board. He's been offering great feedback so far, so that's a really good sign. The issue is, at the moment, is that the boards can all be mass produced. That's absolutely fine. But in order to facilitate mass production and make sure everything's good without having to manually program them and upload the firmware, a testing rig needs to be designed for it. So in a similar way in which the Profis are tested and programmed, Frederick had already designed a testing rig for it. So when it came to me producing those boards for him, it was just a matter of me getting another testing rig from him. Whereas with the Verso, it has to be designed from the ground up, because quite stupidly, when I started developing the Verso, I didn't think to myself, I should probably develop the testing equipment in conjunction with the board itself. So obviously developed the board, manually uploaded the firmware, soldered it together, and that was a way of testing it. Where if I'm going to be making hundreds of these, or if I'm going to be making thousands of them, whatever that may be, I can't manually program them all, upload the firmware and test them by soldering them all together. It's kind of impossible to do something like that. So I had to do some mechanical engineering design for the software engineers to show them how the testing rig would work, how the board will be held in place, which pogo pins will be used, which connectors will be used. And then now the software engineers are designing a computer, custom PCB with a microcontroller on it and everything, which will upload the firmware, test the firmware, test the internal peripherals of the board, make sure the motion sensors are working, the clash sensors are working, the MOSFETs are all functioning properly, and the GPIOs of the board. Because that way, when the batch is made, I can provide everything to the factory. And Devon saying he paused his game to watch this. Well, cheers, Devon, anyway. And Daniel, I'll talk about the hilt runs in a sec. There's a bigger explanation for lots of things that have been going on. And anyway, so that way, when the boards are produced in bulk, because 500 can be made in 4 weeks, that's not a big deal. They can then use that testing equipment to flash the boards, upload the firmware, and it's ready for sale. Because at the moment, what I do is, to program the boards, I have to hold a little board, push pogo pins into the board's connections, upload the firmware, and then solder it together just to make sure it works. So I can't do that for mass production. But anyway, so that's what's being done now, the cost of which is thousands to develop this, which is a bit disappointing, but I should have really factored that in the design anyway. But don't worry, I'm paying it, it's being sorted. So the software engineers are going to do that. So that's what's going on with Verso right now. So yes, I can make the boards, but in order for me to make sure that they can function properly and are ready for commercial sale, I need to have this testing rig, and that's what I'm trying to do as soon as possible. So right now, I don't know, it could be like another month, maybe 6 weeks before that's done, and then I can put the production in place. So that's the news around the Verso. Now, hilt runs. So this year has been a bit of a crazy year with regards to production. It seems that some of the factories that I'd partnered with in the past have become busier with, I don't know, could be other projects. And essentially, in the grand scheme of things with these CNC factories, is that we're kind of small fish, if that makes sense. So our stuff is never really a priority. If I go to a factory and I explain to them that I want 200 of these made, that to them is like small time, if that makes sense. These CNC factories are used to machining aerospace parts, car parts, just things that are usually producing like the thousands. And that's why sometimes when you go to them and approach them, even if you've had a relationship with them for years, they can be like, yeah, we can do it for you, we'll happily do it for you because of our previous relationship, but it might take a bit longer. the Obi-Wans and Qui-Gons was a nightmare because all the engineering was done, files were sent through, samples were made, a little change on the samples to make them easier to install for you guys. So Francisco and I made some changes on the Obi-Wans and Qui-Gons so that they would be easier to install. So this is sort of one of the reasons why I don't like doing pre-orders, because sometimes things will come up that are out of our control, and we need to be able to make sure that the hilts are perfect for you guys for when you want to install them, or they meet a certain quality standard. So there's sometimes a bit of a back and forth. The same happened with the Kylo, the first samples of the Kylo, which I'll come on to in a sec. So the Qui-Gons and Obi-Wans, the second samples were all approved. I bought all of the fasteners because I wanted this time for the factory to do the bulk of the assembly, so they could put the parts together, because I started developing packaging. So before, the parts would come here to me, I would then unpack them all out of their standard cardboard boxes, and I would check them, assemble them all, and then wrap them in bubble wrap and ship them to people in bubble wrap. Then I started partnering with a packaging factory to make the presentation of these kits a bit nicer, and it just sort of, you know, looks better. Like with the thermal detonators, it was a lot more premium feel. So I said to the factory, I'll shoot some videos, I'll buy all of the fasteners, I'll film me assembling one and showing you which screws to use, and then you can take the screws, I'll ship them to you with the assembled samples, and you match it to that. So I sent those samples and screws on the 7th of September, and they arrived in China on the 10th of September, and they didn't clear customs until the 29th of September in China, which for me was the first time that's ever happened. I've sent parts back to my factory before, and they've cleared within like 2 days, and this one, it was like sitting there for like just ages, like 20 days in customs. So it eventually cleared, and then obviously sod's law, it gets to, they get it at the factory, and then it's a Chinese holiday for a week. So then 7th of October they could start doing the assembly. They've done all the assembly now, and they emailed me 2 days ago and said, this is your shipping fee, like $3,500 shipping fee, because I've got 200 Obi-Wans, 200 Qui-Gons being made, and they're all going to be in packaging. So the volume is greater than when they were just parts. So I paid the shipping fee, got that done. On that same day, I had my corporation tax bill, which I paid obviously, because you know you can't dodge the tax man here in the UK. So paid my corporation tax bill, and then that day was just like money just going out. But like I said, not a big deal. I always factor these things. One of the reasons why I think Chaos Sabers and the Saber Armour has gone really well is that I do keep a really close eye on the numbers and make sure everything needs to be where it needs to be when it needs to be paid out. And then obviously there was me closing the shop the other week, which was more to do with how I was feeling. So I don't want to get all, you know, emotional or anything like that with you guys, but you know, you have to understand, like, if you don't understand already, a lot of people think that I'm some like big company, or like I've got multiple employees, or I've got many people working for me, or I've got a big facility. That's not the case at all. Only I saved up from starting the business, I saved up my money for like 3 or 4 years just to be able to buy my first flat. So I did buy a 2-bedroom flat last year to be able to move out, and then I'm still at home now because my workshop is at home. So I'm working from home, and I renovated my whole flat earlier this year, and that was a new project in itself. And literally the reason why I closed the shop for a week is just I've never really suffered from anxiety before, never really suffered from these sort of problems, but I mean, I've had like little anxiety attacks before, but I'm tell you what, a couple of weeks ago, or the week before I closed the shop for a week, man, my anxiety was through the roof. And it wasn't necessarily to do with business, it was more to do with the fact that I was preparing to leave home, which, you know, if you've lived somewhere for like 26 years of your life, because I just turned 26, and you're going into a new space, by yourself, by the way, you know, I haven't got any kids or anything like that, going living by yourself, and then trying to think about how that is. My dad's Iranian, my mum's Irish, we're a very close family, me and my sisters and my mum and dad, and I was just like, I'm just going to be like lonely by myself, I'm just going to be there in the flat, just no one to talk to really, no one to like sit and converse with, and just my anxiety was going through the roof. And then at the same time, you know, I do collaborate with other people who buy stuff from me, and they're asking me for stuff and asking me for updates. And I just felt like so much was coming down. I couldn't really think straight. And I was just like having just these crazy like anxiety attacks. Like I'd be sweating, I'd get these like weird like tension in my chest and my stomach. And it was just like, I need to take a break. Last year I took multiple breaks, just for fun, not for like my own health. But I was taking multiple breaks. But this year, because of like the finances of me paying for my flat and renovating it and having it the way I want it to be to move into it, I was just working non-stop every day, work, partnering with people, developing things for other people, and obviously running the store, because the entire store's run by myself. Every time people place an order on the store, I'm the one packing it. So every time an order comes in, I'm the one who packs it, I'm the one who ships it. I print all the labels, I stick them on, I hand the post to the guys, the DHL come here, and I'm buying the stock, designing on SolidWorks and everything. And it just became all too much. Like, it was just like, this is crazy. And it was just coming down so much. My mum said to me, also I'm very close with my mum, she said to me, you know, you've really got to just take a break, relax, even if it means not leaving the country, just like a staycation sort of thing, and just do some things that you haven't done. Like, I hardly spent time with my friends this year. Like, I've got a really great group of friends, and I'm so thankful to have them, and I hadn't really spent time with them all year, and I hadn't spent time doing things that I enjoyed, like outside of the Sabres, because it is my passion at the end of the day, but I hadn't spent much time doing that. And yeah, it was just a bit mad. There was so much going on. So that's why the mixture of those problems that I was having and running the business was just a lot. But after that week, I felt a lot better. I've taken, you know, just as much as like it's important to eat healthy food and to, you know, look after yourself, looking after your mind is really important as well, because just, it was nuts. Like, a lot of, probably I might as well just explain it now, because a lot of you don't know. But in 2014, I was diagnosed with a pituitary brain tumour. So it's a brain tumour on my pituitary gland. It's a benign tumour, but it was one of the reasons why I left my previous role at my job, because I was off for about 5 months, and when I came back, there was a bit of animosity between in the workplace because of like how long I was off for and everything. And obviously the tumour affects my pituitary gland, which is in control of all my hormones. So there were certain hormones that were super through the roof, like just elevated like crazy, and there were some that were just like rock bottom, to the point where there was just nothing. So I was taking tablets, these tablets called cabergoline, which are like, I think they're like dopamine blockers or something like that, or inhibitors, and it would basically prevent the production of the hormone that my tumour was producing too much of, which is called prolactin. So it was producing too much of that, and these tablets that I would take, I also have to have injections every 12 weeks. I just wasn't really like paying attention to taking them like throughout this whole year, because I was working so much, and I just thought to myself, oh, if I just forget about it, it'll be fine. But obviously that wasn't good. So that week that I took off, I've been having therapy for the last 4 weeks, and I've been making sure I see him, talk to him about how I've been feeling, and I've been taking my tablets on the regular, perfectly, all the time, and I've been having my injections as and when I should be having them, and I've just been focusing a lot more on mindfulness, like, you know, downloading those apps and stuff, and doing everything like that, just to be able to calm myself down if I ever get worked up. And yeah, just opened the shop again after that week, and I felt fine, felt great, and I've been feeling great for the last 2 weeks. So getting my hormones back to where they needed to be because of what was going on was obviously very important. And you know, guys, you don't have to worry about anything like that if you are concerned. You know, I might as well just explain it now, because some people in the community do know about it, some people don't. But yeah, I'm not gonna like die or anything like that. It's just one of those things that happened. It was a bit of an answer to a lot of questions that I had growing up. Anyway, back to Sabres, obviously. Sorry for derailing a little bit, but the hilt runs are all underway. The Obi-Wans and Qui-Gons are on the way to me now. Obviously, I paid the shipping. I've got like 63 boxes coming, 860 kilos worth of parts. That includes the flagship hilt, so the flagships are included in that, and the crossguard. So that's the next update. Crossguard, first samples were sort of correct as to what I wanted, and then a lot of people were pointing out issues with regard to what props were seen by Prop Shop. So a lot of you might not know, but I am friends with the guys who were operating out of Pinewood, and you know, I saw some reference material and things to make the Kylos nice and accurate as per the original. So that's sort of how I designed the first one, and consulted with Francisco on the engineering. And then after that, people were pointing out some things, and it seemed that the overwhelming response was that people wanted it close to the Prop Shop prop. So we made the changes to make it more accurate to the Prop Shop. I've got an original Prop Shop model, and obviously we checked those details out. So the second samples are being made for the Kylos now. I've told the factory that I need to have them by the end of this month, which they've said that they'll be able to do. And once that's done, I can give the green light for full production, and we can produce those. So they're going to be made. Now the goal is to have them received by Christmas, obviously because of what's happening at Christmas and the new films coming out and everything. But I mean, judging by how things have gone this year, I don't know if they will be ready for Christmas. I'm hoping they will be, but I'm not sure if they will. But anyways, you guys don't have to pre-order them or put money up front, and I'll let all of you know as and when they'll be coming in. I have a 3D printed prototype over there. I might just quickly grab actually, so you can see. So this is the 3D printed prototype. So there was a few issues, like the belt clip was in the wire clip was in the wrong place. Now it's in the right place. It's the right scale for the bottom ends, and yeah, it looks good. So obviously these are going to be the buttons on the CNC version, which the second sample is being made now. The first sample was beautiful. Like, I've still got it in the workshop, but yeah, it was really nice, and it came out great. So I think you guys are going to be really pleased with that, because one thing that didn't do with the first sample is, I don't know, me and Francisco must have overlooked it, but there was no way to open the bottom. There was no way to open the bottom to access the chassis inside. So I said to Francisco, I was like, we haven't developed any sort of way to get on the inside. So there's a really nice twist and lock reveal on the second sample, which I think everyone will be happy with when that's ready. So I'll be showing that off soon. And then obviously the big questions are regarding the episode 9 conversion kit. So there will be kits available. I'm super limited as to what I can share about it. I'm just waiting for like the film to come out, so that you know, maybe some more stuff can be shown publicly and I can sort of reveal a little bit more. But yeah, there are episode 9 conversion kits, and I have put into production my own graphics. So if I haven't hinted it already before or mentioned it in a comment before, there will be our own graphics. I say our own, but Chaos Saber is just me, so I will be making my own graphics. I've got the samples. They're really nice. Oh, my computer's just gone on lock. They are really nice. They are being made. The stamping's quite cool because it says patent number KRS Limited, which is really nice. So there will be KR Saber's graphics coming soon, because, well, depending on what happens at the end of this month, if you follow politics and stuff, Brexit is a bit of a weird thing, which I kind of need to discuss a little bit of. Like I said, this video, the reason why I'm doing it live is because I didn't want to sit through and edit all the different topics that I wanted to go through. So Brexit is obviously, they're trying to get a good deal. We're leaving. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. It has to go through the House of Commons for another vote, which they can block again. It can be delayed. It's just all boring politics. But as of right now, shipping and stuff is all remaining the same. Like, there's not going to be any more differences in how I ship to the EU, or how I, you know, the majority of my business is towards outside of the EU anyway, especially the USA. So everything in the USA stays the same, everything outside of Europe stays the same, and there might just be some small changes with how things are handled. They're talking about the fact that there'll be temporary things happening, but until something really solid happens that is worth me explaining to you, I'll jump on here and I'll explain to you how things are changing. So as of right now, everything's fine with regards to shipping to the EU. Don't think that come October 31st or whenever they say that this deal's going to be going through, that suddenly you can't buy from the store anymore. That's not the case. It'll be absolutely fine. So you don't have to worry about that. You only have to worry if I come on here and say, right guys, there needs to be a change. And thankfully I've got loads of people that I know within the EU, so that even if something bad did happen, like let's say they were like, right, we're going to be taxing people 40% on imports from the UK, like, which is obviously ridiculous. It's quite far-fetched. But I know like 20 odd people who are in the EU, and I'll just say to them, look, I'll ship you stuff in bulk so that you can handle EU orders, and they can ship them to the EU. It's not a big deal. It can all happen. Personally, I think that no deal's going to go through. It's going to be blocked, and then there'll be a general election. The Labour Party will come into power, and they'll force another referendum to see if we want to remain or not, and then we'll end up remaining anyway. And all of the last 4 years would have been a waste of time. That's sort of how politics works here. It's a bloody waste of time most of the time. But I'm in my own bubble anyway, so I don't even think about that sort of stuff. Anyway, back to Sabres. So to recap, Obi-Wans and Qui-Gons are shipping to me this week. They'll be coming to me, and then I'll set a date and time for the launch. Crossguards, second samples are being made now. They should be received by the end of this month, and I'll share pictures of them then so you can all see. You guys are going to love them. The price point is obviously, albeit it's a bit expensive, the price point is going to be £349, so like 400 and something dollars, whatever it sort of converts to, as long as there's no stupid import fees or anything like that. So yeah, that will be happening, and full production will begin after those samples are verified. I'm really certain that they're going to be the final samples. Nothing else will need to change. Me and Francisco went through it with a fine-tooth comb. Verso's testing rig. That's all that needs to be done now. There'll be a testing rig. I've got maybe 8 more samples here, so there's 8 people that I need to get in touch with who I want to have test the boards. There was Robert Sotomayor. There was flipping it, my mind's gone blank. There was Jeffrey Birch. I wanted him to test one. There's some guys in the UK that I want to test some guys in the EU like Kai of Argentum Sabres. There's a gentleman in Spain as well. I think it's Tio Garcia or something. And there's some guys in Asia. So I might end up making a few more samples if I have the time anyway. So yeah, there are some people that I have to get in touch with to have them test the samples as well. But I have to do this testing rig, guys, because if I'm producing 500 boards, I need to have a way to automatically test them. I was thinking about reaching out to Frederick to see if he was able to assist in designing a testing rig, but he's a busy guy as it is anyway, so I wasn't going to bother. But yeah, so testing rig, once that's designed and I've got that little rig set up, I can produce as many Versos as I want, flash them, they're all tested before I send them out, and I can sell them to you guys. And regarding the Profi V2 run, in case anyone's wondering, that's all going fine at the minute, so they should be coming at the end of the month when I can start packing and shipping them. But yeah, that's sort of the 2019 updates, what's been going on here at KR Sabres, or just with me. Obviously, just taking each day at a time, as of right now, and just thankful to be able to do something that I enjoy. So, and thankful to all you guys for the support. I will say that the store, if I just check now, while I'm on here, the store, with the Profi orders, the store is over 10,000 orders now. But because they're not completed, I'm looking at the completed numbers order. So look, completed orders is 10,018 orders. So there will be a sale coming up to celebrate this. I'm just waiting. I kind of want to do it when the stock levels are at a point where it makes sense for a sale to happen, because there's certain products that people will want to buy in a sale that won't be there for sale, if that makes sense. So there will be a sale coming up. I'll give notice as to when that sale will be. But yeah, we passed 10,000 orders. In total, it's 10,627, but so obviously a big chunk of those are on hold because they're Profi orders. But completed orders is 10,018. I'm so thankful that a store of Sabre parts has passed such a high amount. It really is amazing how this little place can sort of open you up to people around the world. But anyway, lots learned this year. I'm going to be taking regular breaks, and I'm going to be taking care of what's in here. And yeah, thanks again, as always, for being a part of this crazy community that we have. I'll keep trying to push out nice products, and I'll be keeping all of you guys updated along the way. So yeah, if any of you guys suffer from anxiety or anything like that, or tensions, my best advice is just practice some mindfulness. Just remember that it's sort of like a storm. This is what my therapist explained to me, which really resonated with me, is that it's just, think of it like a storm, you know, it's temporary, it goes away, it doesn't last for too long, and as long as you're not in danger, as long as you're safe, everything will be fine. So, and even if you want to talk about it, you can send me an email or something like that. I'll give you some tips of what I've learned so far. So yeah, thanks very much, and I will catch you all again soon. Peace.